every leader needs to understand that you are no longer going to be focusing on physical presence, but you're going to be focusing on results. So like I said, if you are the boss that wants people to resume at 8 to 5, I think it's time to change. Each employee is a company. Each resource you are hiring needs to invest in their own selves such that you are changing the narrative from where companies used to be the one building people to where individuals have to build themselves and compete to get into good companies because they've built themselves and earn higher. It works out actually. So it will look like you are paying higher salaries, but you are paying higher salaries for ready-made skills. So you spend less on training, technical training, you spend more on salary, and you try as much as possible, like I said, focus on results and focus less on presence.
Dr. Yele Okeremi is the founding and incumbent Chief Executive Officer of Precise Financial Systems, a company that they founded with a capital of less than $60 in 1994. I think it was yesterday I was saying consistency is key, right? 1994 to now is how many years? And still in the same game, building it up, expanding, going deep. He's an adjunct professor of business strategy at the Noble International Business School. He holds a Doctor of Business Administration degree from Swiss Business School, Zurich, Switzerland, and having previously obtained a Master's of Applied Business Research from the same institution. As a leading icon in software development in Nigeria, Okeremi is a member of the Presidential Initiative for Developing the Software Industry in Nigeria and has previously served on the board of the Nigerian Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA. As a technology startup advocate, supporting and promoting the funding of indigenous entrepreneurs twice. Twice, he has served as the chairman of local organizing committee for Demo Africa in 2014 and 2015. By the way, Demo Africa is an initiative for the United States Department of State and Lions Africa to promote innovation in technological field globally and connecting startup to companies that are investing. He's passionate about the development of intellectual capital of the Black race. That's part of the reason why we're discussing today. He loves the Black race and understands what we are not getting right and what we should be doing, and continues to advocate his position that irrespective of the condition of the Black man is by no means inferior in intelligence to anyone else in the world. And that's awesome. Doctor, thank you for agreeing to mentor the likes of us, to give us direction where we have to make big decisions, to encourage us and let us know that we're on the right path. Every time I speak to you, I'm encouraged that I'm not lost, because if I would be lost, there are people like you to drag me back and put me in the right place. Thank you so much for your mentoring, for your care, for your selflessness in giving to us. And I know it's not only me, I know my friends and people at my level that you mentor, that you're on our board. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We appreciate your presence here today. We yield the stage to you. The people are on YouTube and they're all listening to you right now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Enahoro. And I hope everyone can hear me clearly. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. Initially, I said I was going to do a PowerPoint presentation, but I realized that there's actually no reason to do that. I have my notes very well documented, and I will just follow the flow. But I don't intend to take too much time because I want to speak both from experience and from practice and from knowledge. So we're going to bring theory today to meet the practice, And I'm hoping that at the end of it all, we will drop a few nuggets that will lead to very, very useful conversation and engagement. And it is my intention that, yes, we're going to start today, this session. I know we started yesterday. I got the report from Enahoro yesterday, how interesting it was. And I'm hoping that the conversation will continue even after this program. We'll continue the engagement either on Twitter, on whatever social media, and then we will then be able to see how these things work. So, well, that the issue, I like the theme of the conference this year. We're talking about thriving in a migrating world, the emotional intelligence pathway. Now, there is absolutely no gainsaying that the game has changed, particularly for those of us in Nigeria. I was speaking, I don't know whether people feel that same way too, but I was speaking with a doctor and who's also a friend of mine, and we were talking during the week, and even 2 days ago, I was speaking to the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, and we got talking, and I said to her, I said, the way we are going, very soon we will start consulting native doctors in Nigeria, because almost all the good doctors are migrating. And that's a cause for concern. So we talk about people migrating, and we have to look at the implications of these things. Well, I want to start according to my notes. I want to define emotional intelligence. I'm sure we did this yesterday, but it's okay for me to still do the same thing, just to define it exactly the way I saw it. It says emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, as well as being able to understand and influence the emotions of others. It involves being aware that emotions drive behaviors and impact people either positively or negatively. Now, the bottom line here is today we want to talk to leaders, business leaders, and we talk about leaders who are intelligent. In the past, we used to talk about we concentrated a lot of effort on verbal aptitude, quantitative aptitude, and we used to do a test called an IQ test. And for people who scored certain numbers and above, we call them geniuses. But as we began to realize that a number of these geniuses, certain studies began to show that people that scored very high on the IQ index, a number of them were not doing very well financially. A number of them were not doing very well in business. What is the cause? And then people began to see that even people that scored even a lot lower on the IQ rung were doing a lot better as leaders. What's the problem? Then we began to see other factors. And one of the other factors we began to observe is emotional intelligence. Other things that we will talk about, just by the side I will talk about it, is obstacle management quotient. How persistent are you? How much of obstacles are you able to manage? Now, but again, today we want to spend a lot more time on emotional intelligence and how does this matter? So again, I've defined emotional intelligence. The next construct I want to define is migration. What does migration mean? Migration simply means the act of human beings moving from one geographical location to another. So in the context of migration, I'm sure a number of us have heard about rural urban migration before, which means that migration sometimes could be local. Somebody can move, like, come from the village and move to Lagos. That's migration. And some people can go from Lagos to the village. That's another migration. But the kind of migration that we tend to talk about a lot more that concerns us today is international migration, where people are moving from one country to another country, And in particular, since we are using Nigeria as a reference, people moving either from Nigeria to other countries, but we must also consider that some other people are coming from other countries into Nigeria. And so we have both what we call, in geography, we call the people coming in immigration, and those going out, we call it emigration. So essentially, there is a net. And last year, I think I saw a report, in fact, early this year, sorry, from Phillips Consulting, that suggested that more than 56% of professionals or skilled workers in Nigeria would rather leave the country and go elsewhere. Doesn't matter how shocking that is to you, but that's data for you. It is the reality. 56% of professionals would rather live elsewhere. So before I go too far, I want to talk about what are the factors, because I know you did a little bit about that yesterday. What are the factors that affect emigration? Because when I talk about migration now, from now on, I will be talking more about immigration. I'll be talking about moving out of Nigeria. So I'm sure that if we do a survey of those of us who are listening, for those particularly in Nigeria, very many of us will also feel like, oh, I want to move out of the country. And that's okay. So, but let's look at what are the factors, what are the reasons why people choose to leave the country. And I identified a number of reasons. One of the most important of them is economic reasons. People realize that, oh, I can do better economically outside Nigeria than I'm doing in Nigeria. Oh, I spent maybe 4 years, maybe 5 years, 6 years, depending on what course you studied in the university. And here I am, I'm unable to get a job after even 4 years of graduation. I'm not able to feed myself. I can't even plan a family. So I need to go elsewhere. That's a factor. Or I'm just not doing well enough financially. I've been on the same job for 12 years, no promotion and no career movement. So that's one of the factors, economic. There are other reasons. One other reason is educational opportunities. Some realize that, oh no, the education in Nigeria has really dropped. The standards have dropped so much that it's difficult for us to compete globally. And so people want to go study abroad. So that's one other factor why people are migrating. Other reasons are career. Just like I said, people realize that I've been here and looks like there's no room upstairs. You know, the bosses have chosen not to die, and they've also chosen not to resign. And therefore, I need another track for myself. So I want a new career path. I'm going to look for it elsewhere. So that's one other reason why people have left. And these are very, very valid reasons why people would leave. Of course, there are other important reasons. Health. We know some people have, you know, some health conditions that will only be easily managed for them when they're outside the country. Again, because remember where I started from, I said, very soon we will be consulting native doctors in Nigeria. And so for some reason, some people choose to go outside of the country because of health reasons, and you cannot blame them for that. The healthcare system in Nigeria may not be able to support their condition. So a fantastic reason for them to go abroad. And then one last reason I identified is social. And now social, be careful with social migration. Social means, oh, all my friends have left. I'm the only one left behind. Nobody really likes to be left behind. And so some people take the decision to leave the country for that singular reason. Oh, I don't want to be the one left behind. And so for that reason, some people leave. And then, you know, in some other parts of Nigeria, in some parts of Nigeria, it is considered a status symbol that my son is now in Europe, my daughter is now in America. So to that extent, and for that reason, some people migrate, whether they are going to do something that's better than what they are currently doing here or not, doesn't really matter. But for just that social gratification that my son is living in Europe. Again, like I said earlier, when we look at the situation in Nigeria, when you combine all these things, of course, other reasons, under social, you see security, sometimes people just don't feel safe. In fact, I have a personal friend, a good friend of mine. His home was perfected, and that was many years ago. He had a very fantastic job in Nigeria, excellent, fantastic job. He was well taken care of. As a matter of fact, he knew that there was no way, you know, he could get an equivalent job outside of the country at that time. But combination of factors, his wife had a terminal disease that was being managed overseas. And when that happened, he could afford it. So the wife went with the children, went and they were living in the US. He was shot in. And then something terrible happened to him one night. His house was robbed. And he was nearly killed. And that changed the course of his life. Once that happened, realizing that his wife was medically down, they had young children, what would happen if anything like that happened to him? He then decided to migrate and he went to the US for many years. Of course, he came back after years, but again, you know, things are just not the same anymore. But again, I'm just saying there are several reasons. But the important thing, just like Enahoro started with, is anyone that wants to migrate, know why you are migrating, know what is in it for you, and do not just think short term. Please think long term. Whatever you want to do, remember that, particularly depending on how old you are, do your life expectancy, think about 20 years time, think about 30 years time. Like I said, I know another family that migrated, and the reason why they migrated is interesting. The young man consulted me, he came to me and said, "Uncle, I need to have a word with you." So what's the problem? He says, "I'm thinking of moving my family to Canada." He had a fantastic job at that time, very fantastic dream job. And I said, "Why would you want to do that?" His wife was doing very well too. He said, "Sir, you see, my children are young." I said, "And so what?" He said, "I stumbled on a memo in my office." I said, "Yes." The bottom line is that he said the memo that he saw suggested that his children will not be able to have the kind of job that he has, except they went to school abroad. And that changed the trajectory of this young man, that he was migrating solely because of the future of his children. He could afford it, so he moved the family. And I warned him that once your family is there, your wife is there, your marriage is too young, you have to also go. Very, very tough decision for him, because he was very senior where he was. He had a dream job, and then he had to go to Canada to start. Well, not a menial job, but to start again, it's difficult, sometimes traumatic. But again, the important thing is know why you are doing it. And he was very clear about it. He was ready to take the haircut because he considered his children. Like I said, think long term. So he felt that it's okay. I can do away with the chauffeurs. I can do away with the chefs. I can do away with the gardeners. I can decide now that I will clean my car by myself. I would iron my clothes, wash my clothes by myself, because I want a better life for my children. But know exactly why you are going. Now, going forward, the implications of this migration emotionally can be draining. And some of us do not even know that we are getting close to insanity. And it's on both sides. There are those that are here that are frustrated, and they're still looking for a way out. And they are close to insanity and they just don't know it. But their friends and people around them observe that they are now a lot, some of them are withdrawn. People that used to be boisterous before, they are no longer boisterous. They don't go to parties, they don't get to mix anymore. It's affecting them. It's affecting their productivity. And that's something you need to be aware of. Remember, we defined emotional intelligence when we started. On the other hand, Some other people have also migrated, and what they saw where they went wasn't what they were expecting. And so when they got there, you know, and it turns out huge costs. So, you know, I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. Some people sold their houses, sold their cars, sold. Well, that's okay. I work in the software industry, and you can imagine how challenged the business is today. I mean, when we started business about 30 years ago, it was easy. You know, in fact, at that time, the internet was not prevalent. So everything you wanted to do was physical. You had to go meet people physically. You had to submit proposals physically. You had to do everything physically. And we kept on doing that. Internet came, the emails came, it made business better. But again, we still did almost everything. And Enahoro would remember that there was a time in my life, because we have clients in very many countries, you know, we have clients in about 40 something, I don't know how many countries anymore anyway. But there was a time I was always flying from one place to the other, all because I had to either go for meetings, go for conferences, even sometimes go do presentations. And I will find myself flying from Lagos all the way to America. But COVID came, the pandemic came, and it changed a whole lot of things for us. I don't want to waste time talking about what happened, but the equation changed. Many things that a lot of us believed were not possible. I mean, before the COVID, a number of us had invested in video conferencing equipment in our offices, but how much of those were we using? We were really not. In fact, a lot of us believed that if you really wanted to have any meeting anywhere, you had to be physically there. But here we are today, we are having this conference. This conference is successful. Everybody is coming from all over the world using the same thing, technology. So COVID came and changed our lives. How could we have believed that you wanted to work and you won't come to the office? Then COVID came, changed our lives, and we realized that, heck, this same technology that we've been looking at like toys before is becoming a reality. So remote work took up the entire thing. And since the days of remote work, coupled with the issues we have in Nigeria, which has now been tagged the Japa syndrome, everything is gone haywire. So today, you can imagine, I thought it was a joke when you have your best software engineers every day, each of them either coming to tell you, I'm going to study in Germany, I'm going to London, my wife has got admission, MBA admission in London, and I'm going, my wife is going to have a baby in Canada, and I have permanent residency in Canada. Things have changed for us. Today, the workforce is completely different from the way it used to be. In the past, I used to meet my engineers, and I felt happy seeing them. I felt happy interacting with them. Every meeting, sometimes wherever we had to meet in the war room, we had a board, everybody would write whatever they wanted to write on the board. We would argue, we would bang the tables. But today, it's a different ballgame. Now, there are two ways I could have responded to it. And I want to say that for everybody, I can be frustrated. Oh, I've lost all the good hands. And indeed, it's the truth. There's nothing I can do about it. Because, I mean, there are basic questions that people are going to ask. And it's simple. Somebody's going to ask me, if he says he's got an opportunity and I say, don't go, they will ask me, Oga, where are your own children? Somebody will ask you, if it is your own sister that got this opportunity, are you going to say no to that person? So we have a choice in this matter. It's either we can swear for the government of Nigeria for making Nigeria what it is, or we understand that, look, whatever we cannot control, we have to work around it. And that's why I say that it is either we try to resist it or we embrace it. Now, let me put it to you this way without wasting time and without mincing words. it is impossible to stand in front of a moving train. The way migration is today, it is a moving train. Nobody can stand in front of it. If you stand in front of it, you get crushed. Therefore, I state that nobody should attempt to resist it. Rather than resist it, what I think every smart leader should do is embrace it and plan on how to thrive. And this will require a different mindset altogether. So if you are a leader that wants everything revolving around yourself, I think it's time to change. If you are a leader that believes that except you come to the office at 8 and leave at 5, you have not worked, I think we need to think and change all those things. And so I say my panacea, if we want to thrive, is embrace the migration situation in Nigeria. I want to say one or two things before I talk about what I think we need to do in embracing it, and then I will wind down. You see, the honest truth is that when the Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, that's the situation we are facing in Nigeria today. Nigeria is competing with China, competing with Europe, competing with America, competing with Canada. Let's ask ourselves a simple question. And I've seen so many skits where people will come and they sound funny, say, God, why would you post me to Nigeria? The people that you posted to America, they have 2 heads. The majority of people want to live outside Nigeria, and I can't blame them. Simply because of the other factors that we've spoken about, the condition of their living. Some people will even tell you that, look, I don't really care what I'm going to meet when I go abroad. I know I will survive. Well, it's a different ball game when they get there. But the bottom line is that, indeed, from what we know about Nigeria, people will tell that, I don't care what it is. I believe my life will be better wherever I go. So the bottom line, and now look at countries that are now deliberately looking for smart people. So you realize that it is extremely difficult for you to maintain and retain smart people physically in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, I'm going to state today that every smart person is a citizen of the world today. Every smart person that you ever see today, they may choose to live in Nigeria, which is okay. I mean, I'm one of them. I choose to live in Nigeria, but we are all citizens of the world. Majority of those that live in Nigeria have, all of them, they can afford to buy passports, Portuguese passports, Barbuda passports, St. Kitts passports, Spanish passports. They can afford all these things. So yes, we choose to live here, but it's a free world. And the reasons why a number of people acquire those passports and citizenships is not because they want to live there. It's because they want to be able to travel at will, because these things really do matter for people who are also doing business and are leaders. So I think every leader must understand that your best staff are citizens of the world today. Do not attempt to restrict them to the geographical enclave called Nigeria. Therefore, as leaders, emotionally intelligent leaders, if you choose to do some of these things, you get frustrated. When you get frustrated, the chances are that the emotions have, we say it's emotions, but they have physiological implications. Emotional breakdown leads a lot of times to high blood pressure, leads to renal failure, leads to all sorts of things. And people sometimes, people actually die before their time. And even those that don't die before their time become incapacitated. And when they are not even incapacitated, they become a lot less productive. So the bottom line is we have to understand this, and rather than try to resist, embrace. However, in embracing, it requires, like I said, different mindsets. And the first thing I said is awareness of the fact that this is for real. People are going to migrate and adjust. So one of the things that I am doing is understanding. The same way I have clients all over the world, there's absolutely no reason. They have helped some of us to become global companies. Some of us had ambitions of becoming global companies maybe in 10 years' time. the situation has made us become global companies even today. In whatever scale you want to take a look at it. And mark my words, the same issues that your company is facing, Microsoft is facing that same problem. Google is facing that same problem. Why? Because even people who in Microsoft today, they want to work from home. They want to have hybrid working. So these are the things that we are talking about. And so we see clearly that it is important for us to embrace this thing and understand that the workforce is global. And the way we are going to manage them is different. So we need to understand that for those of us who are in leadership position, some of your staff are living in time zones that are different from yours. You need to understand that they are human beings. You have to work around that time zone and give them assignments that would allow them survive and yet produce. And like I said earlier, remote working, I don't think that will ever disappear from the face of the earth. It's going to remain remote work. So we need to be aware of that as long as I can see in the foreseeable future, people are going to continue working remotely. Therefore, what we need to do is to ensure that we use these tools to our advantages. Remote work, global workforce. And I say, because of the situation today, you'll be very surprised that it is easier for you to hire staff from anywhere in the world. Now, this is very important that I say this, that every leader needs to understand that you are no longer going to be focusing on physical presence, but you're going to be focusing on results. So like I said, if you are the boss that wants people to resume at 8 to 5, I think it's time to change. But the important thing is give measurable results, measurable tasks, and make sure that people are producing. If you are getting that, heck, why do you need anybody's presence? As a matter of fact, today, many offices, not just in Nigeria, you see a lot of vacant seats. And these were the same offices before where you had so many people there. Sometimes people are constrained for space. It doesn't matter that it doesn't mean that they have scaled down. It only means that people are working remotely these days. So our focus should be on results and not presence anymore. And that's very important. Now, for people who are running organizations like my own, whose major ingredients for survival is development of intellectual property, it's an uphill task. However, we also have to adjust. And one of the advice I give, and I will say this, is see whether you can create what I call a complex center and simple periphery. What I mean by complex center is that find people who are going to be like the core of your organization, who you know that you can count on them, they are reliable, they are dependable. Organize as much of activities as possible around them, while understanding that today, whether you believe it or not, the average time that anybody is likely to stay with you in your business is less than 9 months. In my organization, I have people that have worked with me for over 20 years and they're still working with me till today. The business is just about 30 years old. So you have some people, but the very funny thing, in the past 3 years or so, majority of the people that we have hired have spent less than a year. Some of them, you hire them 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. In the past, it used to shock me. It shocked you. It doesn't shock me anymore. Today, I appreciate and I am prepared for the fact that people are going to come in 6 months' time. They are going to give you a reason why they are leaving, either to other companies in Nigeria or they are actually migrating. Therefore, what do I have to change? Very major changes have to happen. You see, in the past, in my company, once people move from, entry points, junior managers, we call them trainees. When they get to middle management, we call them, middle management. there are certain trainings that we used to invest heavily on. And when people get to senior management, in fact, in my company, when you become a senior manager, there was a very huge budget that was given to whoever became senior manager to go to business school abroad and learn some skills. If I do that today, it's no longer sustainable. You're going to spend $100,000 to tell somebody to go to Harvard, and then the guy comes back in 6 months' time, he says it's not working anymore, he's going to Germany. What are you going to do? How many times are you going to spend that kind of money? So one of the things we have to understand is that today, and this affects individuals, each employee is a company. Each resource you are hiring needs to invest in their own selves such that you are changing the narrative from where companies used to be the one building people to where individuals have to build themselves and compete to get into good companies because they've built themselves and earn higher. It works out actually. So it will look like you are paying higher salaries, but you are paying higher salaries for ready-made skills. So you spend less on training, technical training, you spend more on salary, and you try as much as possible, like I said, focus on results and focus less on presence. So what we do now is we give assignments that are not going to be, in the past you are doing projects and you are coming up with a new product, and sometimes new products may take us 2-3 years to develop. And sometimes some of the products will not be successful and you have invested money in it. Today, the game is changed. We can't do that anymore. So for us, where we give projects to people to do, you are expecting results within a month, short term. So whatever big project you have today, you must break it down into extremely small units. And once we have done that, we realize that life is not as bad as we thought it was. Actually, life is even better because all the huge monies that we used to invest on training, technical, this conference, that conference, I don't spend that kind of money anymore because it just doesn't make sense for me to spend it anymore. I would rather pay ×4 what I used to pay as salaries for people who have the competence. And therefore, the implication is also that for skilled workforce, you need to invest more in yourself because coming from my desk, companies are not going to invest so much in the hard skills. However, the last thing I want to talk about is that for those who are in senior executive positions, rather than spending so much time, money, and resources on technical trainings, you need to spend more time, money, and resources on soft skills that affect the culture of your organization and the values of your organization. These are the things that we now do a lot more. So when people are onboarded into the organization, rather than sending them to go, I mean, in the past, all the technical certifications, we used to pay for it. I'm not going to do that anymore until things change. But when you come in now, we spend more time teaching you about the values of the company, about the culture of the company, about why we do things the way we do them, so that you understand that whoever you are talking to outside, these are the things. So we spend a lot more on the soft skills and expect the hard skills to come ready-made with you. If you don't have the hard skills, we say, sorry, we cannot work with you. But we also know that it doesn't matter what the hard skills you have are, you need to understand our culture. And that's what we do a lot today. So we spend a lot more time, we spend a lot more resources on teaching values, on teaching culture, things like emotional intelligence, are the kind of things I advise organizations to invest on today. On this note, I want to thank you very much for the time you have given me and the opportunity.
I started feeling empathy as you were speaking and looking at the kind of work that and the kind of change that business owners and leaders would need to be doing now. I mean, the change is enormous. Thank you, sir, for those powerful words. I like the idea that migration is a moving train, and you cannot stop a moving train. I think that's the best way to actually paint the picture we are in now. To say, how do we move? How do we act when a train is moving, rather than try to stop it? Because when we try to stop it, we would crush it. And I think it's a very, very rude and terrible awakening to take it in as a business owner and a business leader that 9 months is now the new normal. Even though we have people who will stay for 20 years, for 5 years, but somewhere in our subconscious, before we used to say 2 years. If somebody says, how long did you spend in that organization? And I say 2 years. We say, okay, you tried. But to now wake up and say 9 months, that's a lot. Everybody, if you have questions, if you can drop it now. Our second speaker is in the house. Drop your questions for Dr. Yele. I don't know if any question was asked in the course of the program, of his speaking. So Doctor, you talked about embracing rather than resisting.
Correct.
And that would seem to be like the norm, but it's not an easy thing. You sit down and then they come and you just see these changes happening. And some people even tell you upfront, that, but I would like to work from wherever I am. Like they've planned it all in their own head. They've decided what they want to do before they come to you and say, yeah, I'm going to be leaving, but if you don't mind, I would like to work with where I am. From an emotional point of view, that can be very irritating, annoying, and all of that. In order to embrace, can you paint a picture of a situation you found yourself in and you almost resisted, but you woke up and realized that, I can't fight this. And at that moment, how did you navigate such emotional challenges?
So I'll say this. You see, you are right. It's a painful process. And I will tell you, I will answer this question and I will say one that was even more painful than this for me. You see, now, particularly the technical aspect of my business, I just say, look, it doesn't matter where they are working from anymore. There's one, in fact, one of the most recent hires in my company. From day one, it was very clear. Look, I'm never going to step foot in that office. It was very clear. In the past, I would have said, is he a joke? Actually, so today, I don't even know the number. The company, we don't have so many people. The head count in my company today, I think, will be about 80-something. But I don't even know everybody anymore. In the past, I used to know everybody. I mean, 70 people in the company. So now what I do to be an emotionally intelligent leader is when I have meetings with them, all right, I insist, just so that we can know ourselves, please, can you put on your video so that I can see you? And so that you can also see me. So you know when I'm smiling and you know why I shout when I shout and you know when I am calm when I'm calm. So we understand that. Just a way of allowing that to happen. Because like I said, it's just a situation. I just had to come to terms with it. Initially it was difficult, but today I realize that it is working. It's really working well. But like I said, you see, that's a change. It's not easy. But I'll tell you, I had a much more painful change about 22 years ago. As a young engineer, I considered myself to be brilliant. I thought I knew many things, and I thought I was doing well. And I could sit down. I remember that in 1995, I started building a viable, what we call an MVP for an entire accounting system on a Friday in preparation for a presentation Monday. I did not sleep for 1 second from Friday till Monday. And I finished building that application. We demoed it for the clients. The client was happy with it. The client bought the application. The application is still alive till today. That was how good I considered myself as a programmer. I knew I could, if once I understood the rules, I would do it. But about 22 years ago, I realized that, hey, it doesn't matter how many programs I can write. I have only 24 hours in a day. If I want to be able to touch as many customers as possible, then rather than try to be the best programmer in the world, I needed to be the best coach. So I took that decision that from now on, I'm no longer going to write any program. Rather, I will be a coach and a mentor to many. It was a very difficult transition, because when you see somebody that believes he understands something and it is natural to that fellow, and you now find yourself teaching other people, and sometimes they are not getting it as fast as you want to say, no, just let me do it by myself. I had to ensure that I controlled myself and allowed people to do those things. That was a very painful change, but again, a change that has paid off very, very heavily. So I mean, I tell people, I don't remember the last time I wrote any line of code, but code gets written every day. Same thing is happening here. Honest truth is that when we were shutting down, my company was one of the first companies in this country to shut down, because we shut down the business 1 week before the government shut down, because we were following the curve in Europe. And once we saw that Nigeria got to 30 COVID cases, we knew it was going to balloon. So I told my people, let's shut down the business. But I thought we were going to shut down for only 3 months. And we knew we had sufficient reserves to pay salaries for 18 months at that time. So, you know, it doesn't matter. I said shut down. I thought it was just going to be a break. Till today, we are still working remotely. So it's a difficult change, but today I realize that it is working. Just like I said, once you understand it, you have to change your ways. Now I understand that there's no point spending a lot of money training people, go and do DBA training, go and do developers bootcamp, send people to developers conference in San Francisco. I don't do that anymore. Rather, I would rather pay 4x for people that come with the skill, and then spend more money inviting people like Enahoro to come and tell us who are we and why do we do things the way we do. So these are just the kind of things. And once you understand it, your life becomes normal again. It's a new normal.
It's usually very, sometimes when I imagine you as a programmer, I can't picture it.
There you go.
I can't picture it. You sit down and you're playing, right?
Yes.
Just quickly, just one last one before we bring up the next speaker. Somebody asked a question here, several, but I'll just take one. How do we train our leaders? And I think that our next speaker would also speak to this. How do we train our managers so that they will not be the reason why people are leaving the organization?
Yes. So, you know, in the past, when we were doing leadership, in the past, people used to say, people don't leave organizations, they leave managers. Of course, it's different today because of GAPA. People leave the country completely. I mean, people have come to me, and I know so. And, you know, you see in fact, there are cases in my organization where the ladies come and say, sir, I don't have a choice. My husband has got this opportunity in Canada, and they show me the contract, and look, I have to leave. I would have liked to continue. And I say, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to stop your marriage? But it's a different ballgame. However, it's still important for us to be good managers. But first, before you are a good manager, you must be a good person. And I think these are things that I said, that I was talking about earlier, when I said spending more time on soft skills. And soft skills means a lot of managers are simply not emotionally intelligent. They treat people like they are machines when they are human beings. Let me explain something to you. Look, when you treat your group, your team, as individual human beings, let me tell you what happens. They will follow you to battle blindfolded. Look, when people know how much you care about them, they will not let you down willingly. And some of these things are very soft things. Look, sometimes the simple things that happen, what separates excellent managers from good managers is how we manage failures. You are really, really praying and working hard for a major project that you believe will change, even the fortunes of the company. And you lose the bid, you lose the project. And then they come and tell you that, oh, it's because Enahoro did not call the woman yesterday so what do? Then you honk down on Enahoro, you hang him out in the dry, you humiliate him in front of everybody. So what has happened is that you have already lost that project, remember? Look, you have lost that project, it's never going to come back. Get that at the back of your mind. So once you have that at the back of your mind, then you now hang maybe one of your best guys out in the sun, then you lose that person again. Yeah, so it's a double jeopardy. So one of the things you need to know as a leader. Pardon?
As a double affliction.
Yes, double affliction. So one of the things you need to know, you see, self-restraint. And these are things, you remember I said that today I spend more time on soft skills than hard skills. Self-restraint is one of the things that every leader, even look, what we're talking about is not just about managers. I'm talking about husbands, we're talking about wives. Many husbands have lost their wives because they don't know how to restrain themselves. When they are angry, they say things that they then regret. Why bother to say those things? When you are upset, restrain yourself, take a walk, come back the following day, call the manager to your office. You can say what you want to say. Let the manager explain what are the lessons you learn. Now, what happens when you do those kind of things, particularly when the managers understand it, they owe you one. Even after they have left your organ. I mean, look, my company, I said to people, I don't get to lose staff at the end of the day. Some of them leave, but they are still very much part of me. Some are useful to us where they are than even when they were working with us. So these are skills and we have to be aware. And that's the meaning of emotional intelligence. Remember I said it, being aware of your own emotions and being aware that your emotions affect the quality of productivity of others. That is the hallmark of it. So we just need to spend more time dealing with emotional intelligence.
Wow. Okay, so Doctor, just one more. If you can spend 1 minute on it, 1 minute. I know I'm keeping the second speaker, but there's a technical question here. If you can be very fast on it. Are you asserting that sending employees on technical training is detrimental to the growth of organization in a gig economy? Or is just something unique to you?
I'm not saying it's detrimental. I'm only saying that in the past, I used to pay a lot of attention to it. But you see, the problem with that thing for us is that, you see, before you start becoming useful to us as a company, you need at least 6 months of technical depth. When we take you in as a young person, you need 6 months, and then we train you, spend an average of $20,000 to $25,000, and then you work for 3 months and you say you are jackpot. It doesn't make sense to us anymore. So that's the issue. It's good, and that's why I said now with the situation on ground, individuals need to invest in themselves on technical training, so that then they come and present to us that I have done this, and when we can verify that they have done it, we'd rather pay you 4x of what we used to pay.
Rather pay you more.
Rather than pay you what we used to pay, because we know we are going to train you. Now, I'm not going to train anybody for the world anymore. I want
train
people
yourself
to what
and come and collect more.
Exactly. So that's the situation. And you need to understand it's a balance on both sides.
Yes.
Like I said, you as an individual that wants to go to work, better realize that people are not going to try to train you anymore because they don't trust you. I don't believe that. It doesn't matter if you come prostrate 50 times and tell me you will work with us for 50 years. I don't believe it because I know that once they flash a US visa at you, you're already, and it's not your fault. We can't blame you for it. So the better thing for you to do, equip yourself, get prepared for the world, come and talk to us, we will pay you international rates.
Yes, especially when you said every brilliant person is now a citizen of the world. Thank you so much.
That's the truth.
Thank you. Thank you so much.